On the CU1 web apps. If you did not know, Microsoft Dynamics SL CU1, 2015 CU1 released about 2 weeks ago, April, the very end of April it launched, and it is our latest and greatest release. Now, this slide kind of gets left in here because this is one of the things we talked about during Convergence. So for those of you who did not get a chance to make it, the big topics of Convergence this year were around mobility, the cloud, and being more efficient in things that you do. So grabbed a couple slides that we used out of our sessions around being mobile. And just to kind of give you, which I'm sure you guys have already know, is that really people need to be mobile. They're looking to go mobile. You know, people are using their devices to do their work today. I'm sure most of you are using your device to check your email, maybe even as we speak. And so going beyond email to be able to access things, you know, in your tablet or your smartphone is something that we all need to do, and a lot of us do it already. And of course, our web apps are our answer to how are we as a Dynamics SL community and Dynamics SL product going to answer that call. You guys are obviously very familiar with the business portal, but obviously the business portal can't be run on things like the tablet or the smartphone. Business portal written on technology, oh geez, it's about 10, 15 years now, where really remote meant that I'm on my I'm on my desktop running Windows and I've got Internet Explorer. Obviously not where we are today. So for those of you unaware, when Dynamics SL 2015 released, one of the big things we announced back in October is that we were no longer going to be supporting the business portal. Again, the business portal being our older product for web access. Its inability to be able to be accessed on the common devices of the day like tablets and smartphones made it obvious to us that since we could not move it over there, that we needed to develop something new. And that's why we decided that we were no longer going to support it, but we were going to put a lot of energy into our web apps. Now, as far as devices we run on, great thing that we can say here that really all we need you to have is have a web browser on your device that supports HTML5. Now, if you're running a device here that's been in the last 5 years, you probably already have a device that has that supportability. And the way that we're going with doing remote accessing is different than some other products. Some other products are creating actual apps that you have to download from the Apple Store or Android Store or Windows Store. We're going a different route. We're creating actual websites. So similar in the sense that Business Portal was a website, but we're removing all the underpinnings that you need. You don't need to have SharePoint. You don't have all these things that were tied to older technology. All we're doing is creating basic websites that run on a standard server. So we're not asking for anything crazy or any special things that you need to do. We're just basically creating a website for you out there. Now, as far as what you need to access, well, because all we need is a web browser, we can run on an Apple device, an Android device, a Windows device. We can even say we run on a Macintosh desktop now, because really, again, as long as your browser supports HTML5, you'll be able to access information through our web apps. Now, the way that we've built our screens is using something called responsive technology. That means that if I'm on a tablet or I'm on a desktop right here, or I put it up on my phone, it might look small, so I can spin my phone, and as I adjust things and as it notices how much space it has, it will go ahead and show you, oh, this is the way it will look. It'll go ahead and constantly adjust based on the real estate that you give the screen. Now, as far as what's available, hopefully you've heard this before, this is what is available prior to 2 weeks ago. This is all that we had. A good amount of things. We had idea of project time entry, project expense entry, approvals, and project analyst. And then we moved into more of the project area to kind of start finishing off those features that are currently in the business portal. Things like project maintenance, the communicator, additional approvals, as well as project delegations. So all those items got added, as well as our quick query feature. And all the enhancements that came with 2015 were also available as a quick query. Now, as of 2 weeks ago, I'm happy to say that we have the following additional items added. We've added the functionality of payroll time card entry, whether it's advanced or regular. And the focus here is for people who don't have project but do have the need to put in people's time remotely. So we have two screens there based on what type of time card you are doing. We also added what we had on there, the idea of doing item request and item request approval. Again, we've had that in the business portal, the remote capabilities of someone to put in their requests and approve them. That is available here as a web app now. The next is web reporting, something that we've had in the business portal, now available as a web app. The idea that I want to be able to view a report and see it no matter what device I'm on. We'll show that one very cool highlight of this is this process does not use application server. So you can clap for that if you know how to do that thing that Joe told you, but no longer do you need web to have the application server to be able to run these reports via web apps. We also added some additional project features that we've had in the past, plus two brand new screens that were never available in the business portal. That's the employee and resource maintenance screen. Pull up existing resources, add new ones, set up their rates, something we've never had before. Now we have that available here through the web apps.
And by the way, Jeff, there have been people clapping throughout this. You haven't seen it. So if you guys like a feature, like I said, if you join late, hit the raise your hand button and you'll be clapping because it's a way to do it. It's like a silent clap, but this is pretty cool. There's a couple of people doing that.
All right, thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for interacting with this session. Next, we also added some project budgeting features. So if you're in your project and you're updating things and so forth, you will update your budget. We've added the entire employee utilization module, a module that a lot of you probably never used in the past. I know I never did as a consultant, but now there's reason to use it, and the reason why are these next two screens, which we'll go through as well, which is resource planning by project and resource planning by resource. So with that, what I'm going to spend most of our time today is we're going to do this all live. We're going to walk through all of these areas. And Joe, as far as questions and seeing that, is that something that I can see on this? I'm trying to look for the questions and stuff.
You know what I can do? Let me do something for you, Jeff. I'm going to change you to an organizer.
Thank you, because I could not see that information. Perfect.
You're going to go silent here for a sec, and then Jeff, just confirm. You should be able to unmute yourself.
All right, I can see it.
Yeah, now you see the attendees. And folks, if you have questions, go ahead and put them out there. I know Jeff wants us to be interactive to hit your questions on the spot.
Perfect. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. So if you have any questions while I'm going through here, again, that's why I wanted to turn that on so you could go ahead and ask those questions. Now, as far as coming into the login, I know my screen is having a little refresh error here. There we go. I think we've got it up and running again. So when we come into the screen, we have the standard capabilities of choosing your company, which you've had throughout. We have two different ways of logging into the web apps. One is either as a user, so we could have it set up so we're running in as a Windows user. So in this case, I'm on the Contoso domain. Now, the other way that you can set it up in here as well is that you could set it up to actually run as a SL user ID. Again, this is something that you actually set up in the web config file. And again, when you install it, you'll see the details of what that means. But there's a configuration file where you set up login via Windows, login being use the SL user ID. And that is set up by site. So if you decide to set it up that one way, everyone accessing this site will have that option. So I'll go ahead and log into the system, and it brings me into the main menu. Now, the big thing that's different about the menu system that we haven't had in the past is that usually in the past, if I had I would log into the old SL 2015 or 2011 web apps, if it would show me basically every single web app that's available to me. So if I didn't have access rights to it, it didn't matter. It's going to show it to me anyway. Now, the nice thing about it now is that if I don't give you access rights to a screen, you're not going to see it. So some inherited capabilities that we assume that are available in the rich client are now showing up here in the web app. So obviously I'm logged in somebody who has access to everything, so I'm going to see everything, but know that when you can set it up that they can only see things that if you don't give them access, they won't see it. Now let's go ahead and start walking. Now one of the big differences you'll notice is that we have these little icons. The little down arrow tells me that, hey, there's something underneath this menu that you want to take a look at. So it kind of gives me that idea. Okay, there's some oh, okay, here's where my time card entry, expense entry, and so forth are at. Also, just as a note, if there's something out there that needs my attention, there's a little exclamation point here. So for example, under requisitions, there's some item requests that need my approval. So it lets me quickly know visually that there's some things out there. I also have this messages button. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a sec. As far as my time entry goes, if I open up the time entry screen, you're going to notice we got the standard things that we've had in the past. Show me time cards that have been posted in the past. I could look at those and pull them up. I can say, oh, yep, these are the ones that I've posted in the past. I can also take old time cards or existing ones and say, you know what? The line items in this time card are exactly like the ones that I need to put into the system today. You can just open up an old time card, hit duplicate, and it's automatically going to go ahead and create a brand new time card with that information. So great functionality that, again, a lot of us will need as well. Now, I am getting ready to go into the time card. Current entry is saying, okay, I'm going to look at the current time card for the current time card period that I'm in. So if I pull up the screen right now, I can see, oh, I must have put some stuff in earlier today. I've got something that's been assigned to me, and it is a billable item, and I've already started putting my hours against it. So on Monday and Tuesday, I put 8 hours against it. For us on the phone, please note that this is a completely different user interface than what you've seen previously. The old interface at this time is currently not available. The feedback that we got is that everyone wanted the grid and they wanted us to get rid of the old style. Basically, too many clicks was the feedback. I can say that I think we pretty much answered a lot of the questions. We are looking into potentially bringing the other one back in the future for people who need that other one, but at this time, know that with CU1, you only get this new grid interface. Now, how did I get that information into the screen? Well, all I need to do is click on New Row, and I have two options, assigned and unassigned. So with the assigned, what's that? Well, if I chose SL to set up the system that I wanted to assign Jeff to specific projects, then coming to that and clicking on that button would only show me the projects that I've been assigned to. It's very nice because if I'm assigned to just 20 items, it's easier to click them and find them than it would be if I decided to go ahead and give me a list of every single project that was out there. So I can choose that particular item and it's available to me right there to see that. So the next thing that we can do is, well, what if it isn't an item that's been assigned to me? What's that feeling? What's the interface work there? Well, if we click on New Row, and we click on unassigned, what it's going to do is pop up this new menu, and this menu allows me to choose the project that I want. So I can click on the project, and I'm going to take today off. Don't tell my boss, I'll take today off. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the project and task of vacation, and this will allow me to go through and put some time against that. Now, as a side note, you do see a lot of fields displaying on here. If you guys are familiar with it, we've talked about in the past. You don't have to see all those items, meaning what we can do is set up in the system that we can turn off these fields. And as a quick little detour here, let me go ahead and choose those items. One of the things that we always talk about is the fact that inside here I can go ahead, let's make this full screen so I can show it to you. We can always go into the setup screens in time and expense setup and under Project Flex Time, and this is where I can turn fields on and off. So if I decide that I don't want fields to be seen, I can either say that I want to see them, I want to see them but make them disabled, or I want to hide them so no one can see them. So please note that when you see the screens, a lot of these things are turned on and turned on for a purpose, so in case someone needs them for my demonstration purposes, but know that you have the ability to remove them. I come in, let's say we want to go ahead, if I can get the access back to my screen. All right, we get back to there. All right. It appears that it is not going to comply with me here. Let's see what I clicked on wrong. So let's stay on the page. Okay, now it's back. Sorry about that. So now that I've got my time into the system and information to the system, we can go ahead and add additional lines, remove lines. I apologize there. I think I hit the wrong button there. But we can go ahead and add lines. We can do a lot of the same things we can do. We can add invoice comments. We can do day information. If we decided to put a description, this is my line item. was on site on that day, click accept. I can edit items. So for example, I chose the wrong project and task, or maybe I chose the wrong task and I want to edit it. I have the capabilities to choose edit and change the values there, as well as being able to add notes as well. Now, one other thing that I like to show off, and I'm going to go ahead and close the screen, is that a new feature has been added here, which I think is one that a lot of people have asked for, and that's the ability that you want to be able to do time detail where you require a start and an end date. I'm sorry, a start and an end time. So a lot of the government capabilities, they need that functionality. And I'm going to sneak in here real quickly and show you what that looks like. Now it'll be a little look odd because I started doing things without this requirement, but I at least want to show you what the screen looks like. So if I come to my current time card entry, now I can't generally come in, and you'll notice these fields are grayed out. To edit them, I have to hit the day info button, where it's, again, we didn't start this way. I would have to put in, I started at 8 o'clock and I ended at 12 o'clock. Then I put that information in there, I hit accept, and it automatically updates the information. So that is an option, but note if you do use that option, you are turning it on for the entire company, which leads me to another point. Know that you can also deploy web apps multiple times. Oh, wait a second, let me take that back. No, you could not change that check setting, sorry. You can deploy it multiple times, but it's still going to use that same base setup. But I did want to show you that you do have that functionality. So the big takeaways from this screen that's changed, it's now you have a grid, new ways to enter things into the screen. Now also you do have a new fields across the bottom where you can see your total hours by day. You didn't have to click a button to see it. So we always show you that. But if you needed to see a breakout of regular hours versus billable hours versus overtime, you could click on the total value down there and it would show you, there you go, here's the breakout of information. So note, again, grid, new, totals viewed at all times. The rest of it is very similar to what you've had in the past here. Now if we go backwards to the main menu, and we'll go ahead and say no to this. The next thing we'll look at is the expense entry, and it is different. You'll notice that we have a grid in time card. Well, that grid is being used in other places now as well. So what we have here is the new expense entry screen, which to me looks very rich clienty, if that's a word. Does that make sense? So we have that ability to now have a grid here as well. How do I put something into the system? Well, this is, to me, very much business portal-like. I can click on a new line item, go ahead and choose an item like airfare billable, fills in the values. Again, if I know them, I can start typing them in. If not, I can just go ahead and choose a specific project, a specific task, and then I can go ahead and put in my units, my rate, and it automatically will calculate that information for me. So as far as my data entry in, it's pretty similar to your business portal idea. I can just go ahead and start typing away, saving the information, and moving forward. Now note, if I want to, I can look up old expense reports. It is much more rich clienty in the sense that it does have a lookup list where I can search by document number, status, type, description to find any old expense reports that are out there and be able to view them. But I do have that functionality as well. Along with this is we do have the idea, as we've had in the past, to be able to do an attachment either at the line item level or at the header level, and works just like it did in the past. But for those of you who may have not seen it, I can go into the system, choose a new attachment, and since I'm running on a desktop, it's going to allow me to browse to a document that I want to attach. But if I was running on my tablet or my smartphone, it would actually interact directly with my camera and allow me to take a picture. So that's pretty cool if I need that functionality as well. And there we can see my receipt has been attached and is working. As a side note, we are using the similar functionality of the attachments that you have in the Rich Client. Please note that it does require you to do an additional setup to tell us for web apps where would you like to store your files, whether that's on a file location, on a SharePoint site, whatever that happens to be, you have that functionality as well. Now coming back, let's go ahead and skip out of here, and I'll say no to that. The next set of features that we have here. The approval process, pretty much the same as what we had in the past. If I log in and come in as my friend Tracy Tallman, who is my approver on this database. Now, what's different for Tracy? Well, when she logs into the system, she is going to get notified a couple different ways that there are items out there that need her approval, either through this little icon at the top. Now, it's not always red and not always sitting there, but when I have things that need approval, like communicator messages, it does pop up. And if I click on it, it's going to show me the items that need to be approved or be addressed, along with a way to jump right to those screens. So if there are time cards waiting to be approved, I can click the approve button and it'll take me right to the appropriate approval screen. So we'll let it do it for us. And there we go. We have some items that need to be approved. So we'll see here, if I look at the screen, I've got some high-level information about these items that are out there, some time cards and some expense reports. And more than likely, we assume this is not enough for you to choose the approve, reject, or forward feature, but it may. Maybe this is fine. You're okay with the stuff that this person did, but we assume you're going to want to know more, so we can go ahead and drill to the details. And the detail screen has been laid out a little bit nicer for you here. We can see by the, basically it's going in by the day I entered things and then the order I entered them in. Here's the project and task, the day, here are the hours. I can go ahead and view invoice comments, view any notes. You'll notice that it actually has icons now that change. What do I mean by that? Well, there is a note and an invoice comment for this first line item, but there's not a note for the second line item, but an invoice comment. So they have created icons that change based on whether there's something behind them. There's also some notes up here and invoice comments here. So it's nice because you can quickly view and know whether I need to look at invoice comments or not. So you don't have to guess whether there's an invoice comment. So a nice enhancement to that as well. Same thing with expenses. We can drill down to the details. We can even go right to the attachments. Yes, sir.
Hello. Yeah, we got a couple of quick questions. Let me jump in.
Thank you, sir.
Pause. The first one seems to be pretty simple, and I'm not sure when it came up about 10 minutes ago. Can you add custom user fields easily, or do you need a modified code to do that?
Good question. If you are going to add custom fields like user fields that are already in the system, you do need to open up the code to add fields there. So if you had some custom, you will have to open up the code and reference them. It's simpler if it's a current SL field that's already there, because that will more than likely will already be being pulled by the web service. But if not, then you'll have to write something on top of that. So I wouldn't say it's an easy slam dunk thing out of the box, but it's most definitely capable, because what we do is we actually deliver the entire code for all these screens, so you can take them, open them up, and make adjustments.
Okay, good. Yep. That was Rick Federick, and then this is Glenn Anstad. Glenn, I'm going to go ahead and unmute your line because you asked 3 concurrent questions kind of simultaneously, and I think they're all connected. Glenn, can you hear me? Hi, Glenn. Glenn Unstead?
I don't think I've got...
There you are.
There you are, sir.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, so you got your questions here. Why don't you just ask it verbally? It's probably faster.
Okay. On the punch in, punch out, first question is, can that be, if it's an enabled, can the salaried employees just ignore it?
No. From what I've seen, and Glenn, I'll test it more, but what I noticed is when I turned it on, it didn't matter. It's now requiring that I put a time in and a time out.
Second question is, if an hourly employee works in the same project task on a given day and punches out for lunch and back in, will that be...
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Can you do multiple? I haven't been able to do that yet. I haven't figured out a way to do it either, because I know exactly what you're saying. So I need to go from, I work from 8 to 12 and I work from 1 to 5, and I need to do that. Glenn, I'll look into that with support, but I haven't found out a way to do that, because I know exactly what you're talking about. But I'm going to say right now no, but don't hold me to it, because I will definitely check with support on both of your questions.
But getting back to, on the salaried employees, you have to have something in there, but it doesn't matter if it's bogus, right?
That's true. True, if you're not using it, sure. But it definitely needs a value to be put into there.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks, Glenn. Appreciate it, buddy. All right. The next area, and I'm not going to go detailed step by step on every field because I know you guys have seen this feature before, but for those of you who have not, the idea of this is just like in the business portal where we have first a way to sort and select what we see and a list of all the projects, and obviously I'm in and it's in a mid, so I'm seeing everything. But then we have the ability to create a brand new project just like you do from the other areas as well. I can choose an old project and copy things over and create a new ID as well. We've also changed the layout of information. So for example, if I pulled up my additional timeline analysis and hit edit, and I pull up that screen, we're going to see the new layout of the project maintenance screen, which, as you know, in the rich client world is kind of a hodgepodge as we add tabs and add buttons and add things. This is a much nicer layout of the information that's available to you. Now, I'm happy to say, and I'll show you guys here a little bit later, we now have a way, as you had in the business portal, to be able to hide fields, disable fields, default fields, and all that other fun stuff for all the information. Now, I'm not going to go through all the tabs because, again, this is just emulating everything that you already have in Project. But again, a great way to be able to show this in a much easier way to view the information. Now, if we go back here from the project maintenance, we'll go back to the main screen here. Now, another thing I've been noticing is I can use different things to navigate around. I've been using that button to take me around to different places. Let me show you some other features of that as well. But first, let's take a look at some of your new screens. The employee and resource maintenance screen is now available. So you have the ability, and we'll pull up one of my favorite people because they're at the top of the list, Mr. Adam Barr, and we can see all the information for them. We could bring a brand new resource, look at an existing resource, edit information on them as well. As we said, we can also do position and rates, and for those of you not familiar, the idea is that you go into the system and define generically what is their hourly rate or other information about them, or their, any work types or any union information that you would need. And then you can go specific by a project and say, though, when he is working on this project since a certain date, this is his new hourly rate. So all that information that you could do before, now available here in the rich client. Here in the web apps. We also have an assignment summary that'll show you real quickly what projects has someone been working on and how many hours have they put against it, so you have that functionality. You can even look at it hours versus goal hours versus revenue, which we'll take a look at a second when we get into that area. Now, I've been using the back button to go back. I can even use the home menu to go all the way to the home menu. Another great feature that I find here with the new interface is that I can click on the menu button, which will allow me to navigate to the next screen that I want to go to show you, which in this case is going to be the project analyst. So I don't need to hit the home button. I can access the menu right from that menu screen and take me right over there. He says, I think I clicked on it. Or not. Let's see what's going on here. Oh, there it is. I just need to be more patient. So it's taking me over to the Project Analyst screen. Project Analyst is the same as it was in 2015 as well as in 2011. The big things to take away from this screen when you're looking at it is you see right here, this is just a report. Something that in the business portal, this was a set screen that you really couldn't edit it. So across the top, you're going to see all the ways to filter your list of projects. So you can use as many or as little as you like. And then when you find that information, you can go ahead and expand that specific project. It'll show you all the information, and I'm not going to go deep, but just know that it's just like the business portal in the sense that it'll allow you, if you have any information, it'll drill down to the other report. You can view the information and so forth. The key bits of things that you as a partner should take away is that now you have capabilities to edit this. So this is just a report, so you can open up this SSRS report, make edits, add fields, remove fields, things that you need to do, and it'll allow you to go ahead and get to that information. So it's something that we couldn't do in the past, available now inside here. Now, I found a bug the other day, so it should blow up when I get here, but let's see if it lets me get back. That's part of me being, no, it didn't, it worked. Oh, I'm glad it worked this time. All right, other things that it can show me here as well. So we went through all the project areas really quickly, but you can see a lot of it's the same, the new things being the employee position rate maintenance and the new time and expense entry with now this new lovely grid. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is employee utilization module and the new planning by resources. So what I'm going to talk to you about is that a lot of us may have heard of this module, but really we've never used it. So employee utilization, there are 3 things that you basically need to do to get things started and set up. The first thing that you need to do is you need to come in and go ahead and decide the different types of utilization. So mostly it's going to be direct and indirect, but if you have additional items, you can set them up as well. So you choose what time it is. Again, this is going to direct, saying it's direct. Mostly I'd say you're mostly going to have indirect and direct, but if you need more, you have that capability. Now once I set up, I tell them the different types that are out there. The next step for me is to go ahead and set up the utilization periods. So what is a utilization period? Well, that depends on the company you're working with. You need to ask them, when you are scheduling people, are you scheduling for the week, for 2 weeks at a time, for a month, for a quarter? What is that block of time that you need to look at? What's the smallest amount of time that you need to look at? Now I've set it up here to be a week because I actually aligned my periods of assignment to the same as my time entry. So we can kind of look at them both together and see if things are working. But it does allow you to come in here, you tell it when to start, and you tell it how frequently is. And so if I needed to add periods, which it's already done, it would ask me for the starting period, tell me how frequently it wants me to update it, and then it basically creates this nice grid for you of all the periods that are currently scheduled inside of this database. Now it's able for me to edit it. Maybe for some reason I need to change it because we need to adjust for the end of the month. But again, the idea is that you're initially going to have this view of all the periods in the system. And those do need to be in there before you start using these other features I'm going to show you. So keep that in mind. So we've set up our periods. We told the system, here's what a period means to me. The next step for me is to go and set up my employees. Now what I'm doing when I'm setting up my employees is I'm saying, okay, I've set up what a period is for us. It's going to be, in this case, a week. Now I go in for my employee and I say, okay, for Adam, how many hours is he generally going to be available every week? So I can put my 40 hours in. And what is my goal percentage? Well, he needs to hit 70% billable to be, to continue to work with us properly. It will then go ahead and calculate what your goal is and help calculate your goal bill rate. Now once that information is put in this case I've already done it, so it's already available for me to display, but I can hit the generate button and we'll go ahead and generate that information for all of the periods that are defined in the system. So now we have, it's 40 hours, his goal 70, it's 28 hours. The bill rate is 250, so his goal revenue is 7,000 per week. Now I can go in and make adjustments. I know that he's gone this week. I know we have more, he's working longer this week, he's working shorter. You have all that ability. But the nice thing is you didn't have to type it all in from scratch. So you have some great high-level information about that particular employee. Now, once it is in the system, now we can go back. And if I go back, we can take a look. Now we've got who it is, we've got our rates. We can then start doing things like looking at goals versus actual hours. So we've got this information that we're putting in the SEC system would be the goals and the planned hours. We've also got the idea of actual hours, budgeted, and so forth. So all these things below these maintenance screens are all the different ways you can slice and dice information. And I'll be honest, right now, the data is not the best. I need to update it. I think right now, if you were to demo this, you probably need to go back to, I don't need to know if I need to go back this far, but I'll go back to 1998-01 and go ahead and find the data. As a side note, when I put out the next update to my Hyper-V image, I will make sure there's better data in here for you to view and you don't have to go back so far. But the idea of this screen is I can quickly look at goals versus actuals. I can click on the details for Amy, since she happens to have some values in there. And I can see all the projects and the hours she worked on them. You can see a large amount here for this project implementation. I can click on the details here and get to the details of all the time that was entered. So again, this is just one path you could go down. As you can see, there's many different views of the information that you can have. This is just happens to be one way to get to that information. Now, again, we've talked about setting it up. Again, you can play around with all the different ways you can slice and dice the information. The next is, what's a better way, Jeff, for me to get the data into here? What do I mean by that? Well, setting up and assigning people to projects, it's not the easiest thing to do right out of the box. If I come into the system and open up a project and task that I can drag and drop, I can go ahead and do a PV in the rich client and add them, but it's not an area that's very, very simple to do. So what we've added here is a brand new process, and I think I want to pull up there it is, additional timeline analysis. So I want to go ahead and choose my project and task and show you how I can assign people to them. So I choose my project, and it shows me some great high-level information about that project. I can then go ahead and choose my task, like project planning. And what it's going to do now is it's going to go out and grab and show me who's assigned to these projects and tasks and who is available for me to assign to these projects and tasks. So you might say, well, that's great information now, but let's get rid of it because I actually need to get a little more real estate. So that's a nice feature there. The next thing is we have access to all these other things. I can jump back into a resources button, click on a resource and jump back to the details of them. I can look at the goal versus plan. I can jump back to the project maintenance screen. I can view the budget information, summary by project, or if I'm looking at resources, summary by resource. So I can jump into all these different places right from here. But the main idea of this screen is that I'm in here. I can see quickly who's been working on this project for the life of it. So I see that Adam was working on it. It looks like not this week, but next week he'll be doing 40 hours on it, and Kim's working 40 hours this week. And the idea of this screen is for you to quickly see and go, oh, you know what? Amy's actually decided to work on this project, so she's actually working 40 hours this week again on it as well. So we can quickly come into the grid and adjust hours. And again, we're setting up what are the resource planning hours against this particular project. So we're doing a couple of things. Amy, when she goes to go ahead and put her time in, will be assigned to this project, but also she now has an estimated number of hours, so she'll be able to see what are the estimated hours that she'll be working on this project. Now we also can drag more people. So for example, let's just say Kim was supposed to work on it this week, but she got sick. So I'm going to zero her out, but I'm going to go ahead and add a new person. So I could go ahead and take my friend here, Ben Smith, and go ahead and drag and drop him on here. And now Ben Smith is part of the team, and I'm going to give those 40 hours over to him to start working on it. So I can do it very simple, drag and drop and add. We also have another mode. For example, if I wanted Ben to work next week on it, I could double click on his hours and have him added there. Or if I wanted to add, let's see, Bill Parker, I can just double click on Bill Parker and he can be added as well. So it's just a couple different ways you can get the information from people who are assigned to people who are available to assign. Now this list can be pretty long depending on your company. If I need to filter, I can filter as well. So if I click on the new button here, I can add a filter where the resource or is part of a company, has a certain skill set, is in a certain location, and you can build as many filters as you like onto this to make that list of resources available shorter. But again, a quick way to view who's working on it, who do I need to assign to it as well. Now the next step is another way to view this is to view this information via resource opposed to project. So if I click planning by resources, and I'll just say no, what we're going to see is slightly different, is that it's going to come up here and say, yep, let me choose my person here. All right, it's coming in as Tracy, which is fine, but we'll choose Adam for demo purposes. And for Adam, we can quickly see here are the total hours that he is available. Currently, right now, we haven't assigned him to a lot. Here's what he's been assigned to. Here are the projects and tasks that he's working on by week. And then here are the other projects and tasks that are out there for me to assign him to. And same as we had a filter, we can filter here as well. So we can go ahead and filter and choose a specific project and task to be able to show them in the detail area, and then go ahead and drag and drop them onto his list. So similar idea to the other screen, just another way of looking at this information. So that's new. That's the whole project resources, that whole planning by project and planning by resource are new. These screens below are not new, but they are new to being able to be accessed via the web. So excited about those as well. So I spent a lot of time there, and I'm looking at my clock, and I'm going to go ahead and we're going to walk through quickly some of the other items. What we'll have here is a screen that was available to you in the business portal that allowed me to see all the inventory items that are out there.
Jeff?
So go ahead, sir.
Hey, do you want to take a sec for some questions, or you want to?
Sure.
Okay, here's a quick one. Is CU1 an upgrade or a reinstall from SL 2015?
If they're asking which client, it is the equivalent of a service pack, so you're installing over top of, so you don't have to uninstall and reinstall. For web apps, it would be, you would have to deploy either on top of your existing site or to a brand new site. So you do need to copy, the deployment process just needs to copy in all the new files that are available for you out there. So if that does not answer, go ahead and ping me back.
Cool. Okay, another question. How does the executive view do when set to true?
The executive view back in the project analyst, I apologize. That is, if I have the ability to do that, then I can set that value to true and see all the projects that are out there that are underneath me. If not, then that value is set to false and I only see the projects that are assigned to me. Same as you have in the business portal.
Okay, this is probably related questions. What documentation is available for the setup and use of resource management apps?
The employee utilization area is all documented, as well as those two new resource planning is documented in the new web apps as well. So you can get documentation on how to use that as well.
Okay. One last one. Now that BP, I think business portal or?
Yes, business portal.
Is gone, are there plans to re-enable project server integration?
Good question. Right now, we are in the process of this year is cranking out all the web apps that we could potentially need to do that in the future. Right now, our status is that we do not tell you if you are on 2011 and you have the project connector, we tell you do not upgrade to 2015 at this time if you are relying on the connector. It is not available as of now. I don't see it being available here within this year. This year, we are kind of heads down focusing on getting as many of the web apps out. Now, part of the reason why is that some of the web apps that we would need and web services we need for the connector have to be developed and created before we can actually go ahead and go back and start working on that connector. So our goal right now is to finish out this year with cranking out our web apps, and then after this year is done, we will revisit potentially looking at the connector and seeing if that's something we need to build going forward.
Very good. That's all you got right now.
Thank you, sir. Now, this screen allows you to search by description or by attribute to help you first get the items that you want into the grid. Once we find them and we hit the refresh grid button, it'll go ahead and show us the information about the items that are out there. If this is all you need, this is available today, that's all I wanted to know. But if I wanted to get more details, I could click on the availability, which would then break it down by site for me and show me all the details for the New York site. I could also even look at plan details. You can see there's a bunch on purchase order, there's 5 on purchase order. And then I could also look at the vendor details as well. Whoops, I chose one that didn't have vendor details, but you have that capability to view that information as well. That, again, something that you've had in the business portal, now available here as a web app. But also just to let you know, we are going to focus on other areas than just the requisition area. I'm sorry, than just the project area. The next is our item request entry and approval process. The item request entry screen has been available in the business portal, now available here as a web app. Some great functionality. I think it looks great. As a big fan of this screen, I think it looks even better than it has in the past. Works quite well. Has that same look and feel kind of being able to go ahead. Now, one of the cool features of this that I don't think was in Business Portal but is now available here in the web apps is that you can go ahead and copy in line items, which you've always been able to do. But one of the cool things that I like about it is that I can come into the system and say, yeah, these are all the items that I could potentially order for this electric template order, but I only want, I only need 5 of these, and this is all I want. So what will happen is the way this screen works, and I'm not going to go through all the ins and outs of requisitioning, but the idea here is that I could submit this for approval and hit save. It will notice that all of these other line items are zeroed out and say, if you go forward, I'm going to delete those line items because we're approving these, so I'm going to go ahead and delete them for you. Would you like to do that? And if I say yes, the cool thing about it is it removes all those line items. So think about this. If I had an item request that had 100 items on it, that had a template order, and I just wanted to order maybe 4 of the line items, All I need to do is put my quantity in those 4 items, hit submit for approval, it automatically removes them. I'm a big fan of that feature, so I like that. Also, you can approve your item requests as well, just as you could submit them. So this person can come in, click on the load approval button and see all the different line items that are out there that need their approval, and take either individual action or choose to approve all of them, reject all of them, or clear them. Now, just like you have in the standard product, you can go through and view all the actions. You can look at approval comments, budget information, inventory order history, alternatives or purposes, drill back to the details, why did they request this entire item request? All that functionality that you've had before in the rich client as well as here inside of the web apps. Now, I know I'm going a little fast, but I see that I only have 10 minutes left. So other things you can do, requisition budget, item request history, again, features that are available in Business Portal, now available in web apps. Another Business Portal feature here is being able to put your time into the system. Let's pull up one of the screens as an example. The time card entry screen. I think I have something out there. Yeah, I do. We can pull it up. We can see an employee. Again, the idea of this screen is to be able to put time against the payroll module when you don't happen to be using things like projects. So you can come in here, see the details about Amy, fill out any information that you need for them, and then be able to put it in the hours. Now notice that this doesn't have the grid yet, but it is in the plans to add the grid to this new time entry screen as well in the future. Strictly was timing, and the fact for your purposes, for your information, is that we just had, we developed the new grid for the main screens that we use, but we'll add it other places as well. Communicator, I'm going to skip that just because Communicator is the same as it was in 2015 and 2011. A way to view things and then drill to the details. We also have our quick query feature, which you might not have seen in the past. Same features that you have in the rich client. I can either search for a quick query up here or go into the specific modules and pull up either a base or a saved view. And then I have the same functionality that I have inside of the rich client, where I can drill back to a specific screen. I can take actions. I can use my column builder, which is a little bit different than the rich client, where I can go ahead and add things on the fly. I can remove things and change the names. I can move fields up and down. This one actually I want to move to the top. I can do all those things on the fly and adjust the items that are here. For those of you who have seen that cool export feature in Excel, we can do that as well. So we can actually take the information and create a connected Excel document right from here as well. Thing to note, obviously, is it's going to require that you have Excel installed on that device to be able to do that. We can save our custom views the way that we had them. So I put a specific filter on here and I want it to save that. You can do that. And you can, just like you can in the rich client, choose exactly who you want to be able to see this custom view. And coming to this other area that's new underneath the reporting area is the fact that we have this new shared information, is the idea of running reports. Now, running reports, just like you have inside of the rich client, are going to look very familiar. We can search for a specific report like the trial balance report and have it sort and select for us and help us get there quicker. So I've got a vendor trial balance report. Let's just pick that one out of the hat. And then you're going to see a very common looking screen that you've seen before, which is the ROI interface. So all the things you could do in the rich client, available here. So if you had a template saved, you can pull it up. We can look at the different types of report formats and choose them. You can sort, you can select. If you have options, you have those if possible. Company selection. And then the big new item that's added here is the request options. The big thing that's cool about this is that now you can choose to generate this report and choose exactly what you want the output to be. Now, since we are going to be running this on multiple devices, we are not actually requiring that you install Crystal on your machine or SSRS or anything. The idea here is you to tell us, if we generate this report for you, how would you like to view it? As a Word document, an Adobe document. Again, it's going to be based on what you're running on. I personally would assume PDF is going to be pretty popular. And then once you choose that, all you need to do to actually see this report is hit the Submit Request button. Now when I hit submit request, it is going ahead and submitting this report to a queue that's sitting out there. Now what it does is this report queue holds all the different reports that you have available to you. You can see I've run a couple here previously for this person. I ran one back in March, and if I want to view that report, all I need to do is hit the get request file. It actually locates the file. In this case it found it, and then all I need to do is click on it, and I'm running this on internet, so it'll go ahead and open it up inside, in this case, inside of Adobe Reader. Now I can view that report. Now what happened to the other ones? Well, it goes into several statuses. It first becomes submitted, and if I hit my refresh queue button, oops, I didn't catch it, it's actually already completed, but it basically goes through three: a submitted, in process, and completed status. Now again, the report's out there, lots of details on it. I can get that file just to prove to you that it actually did run live, and there is my vendor trial balance report. Now the number that I'm giving is that we're able to create 78% of the standard reports. We don't currently do any special form reports or any reports that require some type of pre-process right now or need some interaction from the end user. We don't do those at this time, but that's what is available now. Now if you want to get rid of them, we can go in here and just choose delete to get rid of them, or we can go into our multi-delete mode, which will allow me to select multiple ones at a time, select all of them, clear them, all that other fun stuff. So we have the ability to go ahead and view those information. Now, note for everyone here, note that this does not use application server. There's actually a real service running on the server, and when I hit submit, it is actually sending that to a service running on there that takes the file, it generates the file, and then it puts it into a folder that we have set up during installation. So during the install, you tell us where are the reports and where should I store any generated report. Note that that is something, when you set that up, that you can also add your own custom reports. There's a process that's documented. I think right now it's more of a manual process where you have to update some SQL tables at this time, but it is very, very possible and easy to do. Last but not least is our access rights, which we've added, and the area that I'm excited about, which we're just starting to work on here, is adding access rights to fields in the web apps. What do I mean by that? Well, right now you can go into the payroll for time for the payroll time entry, an advanced payroll time entry, the project maintenance, the project time card entry, and the project expense entry screens. And inside them, and let's just choose project maintenance as an example. Once I choose that, I have an option of which page, and I can say, for example, for the accounting data tab for this particular user, Adam, I want to go ahead and turn off this field. He should not be able to see the billing currency. Or I'm going to enable a field. Or I'm going to set that field is actually required for him because he needs to make sure he puts it in. Or I can set the default data. This does definitely give you much client functionality that you're used to having, and something that's available now into these screens, but something that we can see continuing to use as we add new screens to the system to be able to take advantage of this functionality. So with that, I know there were definitely questions, and I know I kind of went into hyper mode here just to get all this data out here. Couple things to note. If you go out, we're going to have another webinar, and I apologize, I was going to pull up the date, but we're going to have another webinar on web apps where we go through installing web apps on the demo image that was put out, I guess, a month or two ago. So if you've got that SL 2015 web apps demo image, I'm going to give you a session here. Joe, is it next week or the following week?
I will let you know. It looks like it's actually the next one we have on the calendar is May 29th.
Okay, so in 2 weeks, I'm going to go through installing the web apps onto the SL image. Know that you can, and that's actually what I'm running it on, so you can deploy the new CU1 web apps on there. Also note I am creating a new Hyper-V image. It's the same image that you have, but I'm just waiting for the first round of hot fixes and so forth to come through before I push it out to the group for the rest of the year.